What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Under the Arch Sports. I'm Eric Hobbs, and today I just kind of wanted to do kind of a football roundup now that spring practices are done with. Before we get into that, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, and on Twitter. Every like, every subscribe, it all helps. All right. So, spring practices are done. It was kind of quiet as spring football happened just because the access was so limited and the spring game was converted into a practice in the Divine Pavilion. The weather was awful, so there was no spring game effectively. Anyway, we've got a little bit of a clearer situation on some positions just based on media reports. We know Sam Horn has been shut down for baseball. That was just announced heading into the weekend here in March. Just announced Sam Horn done with baseball for the season. From a strictly football perspective, that's the best thing possible. The forearm strain is often a forerunner to needing Tommy John surgery and so forth. So just shutting him down now, it's good for Missouri football. Keep in mind, baseball and football throwing motions, very different. So if he's done with baseball, it doesn't necessarily mean anything for football. He's just got to be careful, and he's on the mend. So that's good. Quarterback, Missouri has what they have. Sam Horn on the mend, Jake Garcia with a lot of the reps with the first team, and them two along with Brady Cook. That's probably your three-way quarterback battle in fall camp. Realistically, I think it's Horn or Garcia. If Brady Cook's the quarterback, Drinkwitz is going to end up getting fired. I stand by that, just because the offense will be terrible enough. Now, aside from that, I think there are three key positions that Missouri really needs to look at once the transfer portal second window opens in May. The third most important for me is tight end. Missouri has had next to nothing out of the tight end position for a couple of years now. Essentially the Drinkwitz era, if we're being honest with ourselves. So, yeah, you need somebody in the transfer portal. You look at on the roster, your best hope is redshirt freshman Max Wisner or incoming true freshman, a four-star recruit Brett Norfleet, who is from the St. Louis metro area. That's not encouraging, where those are your best options. And let's face it, those are the best options. Then you look at defensive line. Defensive tackle is, I think, pretty well set and could be pretty good. Defensive end. There's a lot of bodies. There's a lot of people, but there's not proven guys that you feel confident are going to go out there and get 7-8 sacks this season or anything close to it. You got Arden Walker, Johnny Walker. Those guys are kind of assumed to be the starters. We'll see. Missouri's been busy looking guys. Austin Firestone comes to mind. Transfer from Northwestern. Will he be a factor? And then you look at offensive line guys. The offensive line, there's been reason for hope at a lot of positions, but not at center. And that's what I'm going to focus on here. Marcellus Johnson might have right tackle locked down, and he might be okay, and that might make both guard and tackle positions halfway decent, but center is not. The center is supposed to be the quarterback of the offensive line. That's a problem. You look at the two guys that Mizzou presumed would be their battle for center. Benz Polgar, ineligible in 2022 somehow. He just hasn't performed up to snuff in practice. And let's face it, he was mediocre playing at Buffalo in the MAC. So honestly, it's not that surprising that he's struggling at the SEC level. And then Connor Tollison. He was the center last season, 2022. We saw him struggle mightily with snaps, particularly early in the season. And he just got blown up way too often. Part of that is playing at listed weight 285. It's not big enough. And the rumors out of spring ball is that he just isn't bigger. you think, okay, well, is the strength and conditioning team just not putting together a good plan for him? Well, every person, every body is different, sure. But you take a look at Ja'Kai Lang, incoming true freshman defensive lineman from the St. Louis area, Troy, and he enrolled early and has already put on 25 pounds of muscle. So, I mean, they're playing work for him. So what's the story with Tollison? I hesitate to throw anybody under the bus without knowing the full story. But once you assume the strength and conditioning team has a plan in place for him, it's not working. Where else do you look but at the player? Does he just have a crazy metabolism that just kind of says, nope, 285 is the ceiling? Or is it an effort thing? I don't know. Again, I'm not trying to throw him under the bus because I don't know the full story. But at the end of the day, 285, not big enough for a center in the SEC. I mentioned the snaps as well. Early in the 2022 season, they were a mess. Later in the season, I thought they got better. Not great, but better. But he seems to have reverted based on reports out of spring ball that snaps were all over the place, and a lot of times the timing was thrown off. And think of Drinkwitz's offense. How much of it is quick hitters on the short horizontal passing game? Those are nuked as soon as the quarterback has to bend over to pick up a snap at his ankles or jump and then land and get into his throwing motion. The play has no chance. Not to mention the fact that at the snap, the running back is running to get a handoff and then having to stop and then get the ball and then take off again. The timing's all messed up. And the running back is not hitting the hole that the offensive line's made with any sort of urgency. I mean, no quickness or explosiveness. So, yeah, center for me, the absolute biggest concern for this Missouri team. Because honestly, it takes the center position improving for this offense to be anything like we know it can be. The skill position players are there. The receivers are there. I have confidence in Tavares Jones as a feature back, and then Nate Pete and Schrader filling in. I think that them two can do just fine. It's all about the center, I think. So much of it, man. And it has to be fixed now. You've seen the urgency out of the coaching staff in terms of adding transfers. I think we're going to see that when the transfer portal opens up in May. I think you're going to see a lot of movement, particularly getting a center. The hope is that Cameron Johnson might come from Houston following his offensive line coach, Brandon Jones, incoming to Mizzou. That would be a huge win for Missouri. Johnson is a 4-star rated transfer. It'd be a big win, and he could play center. And then you think, all right, we might have ourselves a halfway decent Missouri offensive line. We don't know that, but it could be with Johnson there. We know Missouri's after him. The interest level, we just don't know. I'll say this. Drinkwitz has to get it right this year. 6-6 in the regular season will get him fired. I feel confident in that. So, yeah, I think you're going to see no mercy when it comes to adding players, any sort of movement, benching guys. Drinkwitz knows his job is on the line this year. Because 3 years in a row of 500 football and then losing the bowl game, not good enough. Especially with the talent that is on this roster. At everywhere but center. Let's face it. Anyway, that's all I've got for this video. Keep it tuned here to Under the Arch Sports. More coverage on the Cardinals, the end of the Blues season, the Battlehawks coming down the stretch, and City SC, just taking MLS by storm. We're going to keep talking about it and following it. Thanks for checking us out. See you guys next time.